guys, what's going on? It's FloatingWilly here, and today I have episode 3 of How to Cannon. Now, in today's episode, what we're going to be going over is how to raid a full base with 45-degree regens. I know there are tutorials on YouTube that actually show you how to bust the 45 regens, but there's a lot more that goes into it that you don't understand. Alright, so one of the first things you're going to want to do when you are actually cannoning regen 45s is you're going to want to have a decently long floating barrel. Just because you're going to need room on top of your floating barrel to adjust the guiders vertically so that it doesn't get in the way of the hammer and stuff, because that's one thing that is key to raiding these regen 45s when you have walls in front of them. Now if you just have regen 45 like as the first defense of the base, then you probably don't have to worry about any of this because it would be so easy to raid. But you do, in this case, have to cannon through lots of walls. So the first thing we're going to want to do is find out where we're going to cannon. So let's go ahead and cannon, what is this, Z? 174. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in here. We're going to place a block right here so that the power gets shot over here. And what I like to do, just for simplicity, is I just put a whole wall right here. This is nowhere near necessary. You just need like 2 blocks right here or something, but I just like to put like a whole wall just because it makes me feel better. And then we're just gonna raise this up 5. So instead of having this right here, this is the lowest possible guider we can have. I'm just gonna move 5 up. Now there may be other ways to do this, probably a lot more simpler, but this is just the best way that works for me, and it works on the Archon. So if that's one of the things you're interested in, this will work for you. So you just kind of finish off your guider just a little bit here, build up the walls a bit just so things don't shoot off to the side, just like so. And then what you will do is go ahead and fire. So just make sure you have your scatter on and everything's good to go. So let's go ahead and fire here. So we're taking our first shot at the wall. It should stack like up here somewhere, just like that, and it just kind of scatters down. You see, these things right here, these will get in the way of your cannoning. This is why you want to have a tall first few shots so that you can gradually get lower as you need, because the scatter hole is big enough. So what we're going to go ahead and do, so I'm going to put the sand back and we're going to fire again. And then I will show you what I mean with the little nubs right there on the side, because usually around this time is when they start showing up. Alright, so notice how that little piece of the wall actually got removed on the next shot and this one was created. Basically what happens is, as you cannon through the wall, the scatter for the next wall that you're shooting at will clean up the previous wall's little nubs right here. So here's an example over here. Basically, if I were to shoot right here, these would get deleted. But if you have an ocean in the wall, which actually happens if the base creators decide, hey, let's put water in here, just in case these people try to raid us again, just in case that spot has already been used to raid from. So what you do for these guys, this is why you have to have the tall guider, because usually they will be lower in the wall, and this is the lowest guider right here that you can possibly have with this cannon. So you need to make sure that your nubs are actually taller up than that, so that you can actually cannon them if there is indeed water in here, which is not ideal for raiding bases, by the way. I just want to get that out of the way. Alright, so now that I got that out of the way, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and finish up cannoning through these walls. Alright, for this shot, what I'm going to go ahead and do is place water sources all along this little nub right here, just to show you guys what actually happens when you try and cannon it. So see, now this little guy is like fully covered in water, so the blast radius of this wall is not going to break it. So this one is actually completely not even really needed to be cannoned since it's so low. But if it were to be like up here or something, I'm just going to show you guys what would happen and like how dangerous it is just to leave it there. So the easiest thing to do, like I said, is just move your guider around. This is why you always have to go from 2 blocks over. See, it didn't even get touched. And see, a new one started. So it's always good to actually have extra room on the left and on the right, just to be able to cannon those little nubs. And that's why you have to have a high, nice and tall guider. Alright, so this is the last wall before we actually go through the regen, and the regen is actually pretty easy to go through because usually some of the times they'll be stacked on top of each other, so you don't actually have to full stack, which is definitely nice, but that usually means that they have more walls on their base, so it's kind of like a balance issue. So basically I just set up 2 of these little nubs right here just of where they would be if you were actually raiding and they had like ocean. What you have to do now is make sure you line this up correctly. You see, so what we're gonna have to do is go ahead and just take out this little wall we set up right here to stop all the stuff, because we want it over here now. And then we need a half slab guider. I did explain this in my last tutorial on how to cannon, what the half slab guider does, and if you didn't watch that, well, basically what it does, it just makes both the sand and hammer, although stacking a little bit less, hitting the same block and being able to blow it up. So let's go ahead, make sure everything's closed off here. Oh, whoops. Doesn't really matter if you destroy that, you might use it later. It all depends. So just make sure, just be really careful with this cannon because it is a little bit sketchy. Lots of stuff can go wrong, lots of stuff can blow up. So as long as you have everything done correctly, it shouldn't. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to fire here. Unfortunately, I really want to keep the cannon chunks loaded so you won't be able to see the direct explosion. See, right down there, it half stacked. So this may take a few shots, even though you do need to handle these, because you're not going to be able to get your fifth stack here all the way to the left, and you won't be able to even break through the regen. It'll just be awful trying to. So this is really an important step. See, it's stacked down there. So I'm just going to go ahead and fire again right here. And we will just keep going until we're all the way up and stacked up against this. So I think this may take another shot here. Oh, actually, no, it didn't. See, it blew it right up. So that little guy's gone, and it actually lengthened out the wall a little bit, which isn't very necessary. But it does help if you're actually not even going through Region 45 and you just want a bigger blast radius so you can cannon more things in the base. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and cannon this guy. And it's 5 blocks away, so 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it should be right about here. Is it? No. Yeah, it's right here. So we'll just leave that there. Put that right there. And then we need to turn this into a half slab guider, just so that they both stack. Let's put a little bit of wall right here. And then we'll go ahead and fire again. And making sure everything is right here. Let's go. It never hurts to check to make sure you're actually lined up to be shooting the right block. And we are. So we are good to go. So let's go ahead and finish this up real quick. Got the half stack right there. And there we go. Just busted that right open. So yes, this does take a little bit more effort with actually canning, but that's just the price to pay when canning these guys. So first things first, what we're gonna do, we're gonna want to make sure our settings are on the lowest guider possible. So right here, this is the lowest guider, and we're actually gonna need to leave these half slab guiders just for the first shot, just for the lowest, so that they both hit the 1 block. So at the end, this is what the regen wall is going to look like. There's going to be sand stacked in every single one of these little compartments here, making sure all the water is gone, therefore not allowing the lava to regenerate itself and the wall. So what we do, put our sand in, disable the hybrid, and then you can just leave everything else on because it does not matter. Make sure everything in the barrel is clean up. While you're canning these, it will get really messy. I'm sure there's ways to make it like systematic and nice and clean, but that's just not usually how I like to do it. I just like to move nice and quick here. So let's go ahead and fire here. You can go to the wall, I just tested it. Half stacked right there, as you can see. So now what we just need to do here is just full stack. But that's really simple. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to fill in this floor here so that we don't have to end up doing any of that. Alright, so now what we're going to go ahead and do is stack. What I went ahead and did is, since these walls are already clean and rendered useless, what I did was I just rolled out the water so you guys could actually see what's happening with me not having to unload the cannon. So basically what happened is, as you can see, it stands stacked right here. So now what we just do is we just shoot again and then disable the hammer, just so you actually don't end up hybriding the wall. And we just need to get rid of that water right there. See? And then we just keep stacking right here. Now we just take out our guider, because the one-shot sand, I don't know what it is, but the one-shot sand just doesn't tend to stack on top of it unless you're at really, really close range. But the actual sand, the white sand, does. So that's how it works for me. Usually that's how I usually rate them. It works. It does seem a little inefficient. Not too sure how to fix it, but bam, there it is. See, got rid of the water right there. Alright, the next step in the process is we do not need half slab guiders anymore. We just need to raise the hammer guider now. So we can just go ahead and delete this, because now we have an actual wall to stack off of. So now we're just going to go ahead and place those blocks right there. Make sure you enable hammer. Only reason we disable it is so that it doesn't blow up anything and doesn't really waste TNT, because I know these raids can be definitely a little bit expensive. Alright, so now what we have to do is just go ahead and fire right there, and it stacked perfectly. Now on the first shot we actually had to stack 3 times. That was because I was a little bit forgetful and I forgot to refill the one-shot sand. So now that's full. It'll only take 1 shot here, and just load a little bit of regular sand. I'm just going to paste the whole thing in, mainly because it's a lot easier. Make sure you raise your sand guider by 1 so it's flush with the hammer guider. Disable this, and then we just go ahead and fire it. Alright, so it should look something just like this. Actually, it should look like something like this. Man, because I forgot the one-shot sand. So now all we have to do is just stack 1 more time. So we repeat the process that we did on the last 2 shots, and we actually get our hammer guider, raise it up by 1, just like so. It doesn't really matter how long it is. It just needs to be just a little bit long. So everything looks good. Now we can re-enable hammer. One thing about enabling and disabling the hammer is it actually takes a little bit of time, and if you miss it one time, it'll be kind of annoying. So guiders are correct here. Let's just make sure. Hammer's on, sand's loaded. Okay, let's go ahead and fire the cannon. Just like so. And we will watch the sand stack right there. So it's looking good right as of now. Let me just go ahead and fire here. Raise the guider by 1. This is definitely a little bit of a grind. This is probably the most grindiest thing in the cannon, actually, other than loading sand. So you may be a little upset if you have to go through these, but usually if the base has these, it's pretty worth it. So make sure guider is loaded correctly. Perfect. Hammer's off. Everything looks good. And I'm just gonna go ahead. This is a real grind here, guys. So I'm just gonna go ahead and I'll probably just finish this up here off camera, just so you guys don't have to watch the whole thing. Yeah, that'll be it. Alright, just getting set up to start off the final row of sand stacks here. So just making sure I have everything in check. Perfect. Guiders are aligned. Enable the hammer here. Paste in the sand. And then we should be able to fire right here. So let's go ahead and watch it. So we'll just stack right there for us. Just like so. So now all we have to do is put the sand in, just like there, and then we will be almost done with the process here. Alright, just getting prepped to actually blow up this massive sand stack and actually get through this Regen 45. Just make sure that you have everything enabled, like your hammer, and you're actually going to re-enable your scatter after a while. Make sure you got your one-shot sand's loaded, and we're just gonna go ahead and shoot at it. So we are on our lowest guider right now. I cleaned up the barrel just a little bit because it was kind of getting disgusting. That's usually how these things go, but I think we're ready to go. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is fire it, and we will see what happens here. So you should be lined up right in the middle of the sand stack, just like so. Perfect. Notice how everything's kind of genning right there. Everything will gen except for the middle row right here. And it'll just pour right down, and then you'll have a little 3-block hole that you can just cannon through. So that is how you get through these 45-degree regions. It does take a lot of stuff. Definitely takes a lot of stuff to get through these. It's definitely a lot more resource intensive, but if you guys have these on your base, I recommend them. Put them as close to your actual base as possible so that the raiders actually have to go through and clean up as many of these little nubs as they can. And this is definitely one of the easiest ways to raid these guys. Alright, so now that you're actually through the Regen 45 here, so you have a few blocks to work with here. So just these 3 blocks right here. So right here is the sand. That's the lowest the sand can travel through. So what that means is you just have to raise your guider by 1. And this is why we actually cannoned a little bit farther down with a little bit of a longer floating barrel, so that you can actually pull this off. So if I just go ahead and destroy this right here, put a little guider for the hammer. We still have our wall. Hammer will go through just fine, and I assume so will the sand, since we just raised it up 1. So we can actually raise it up another, if I'm not mistaken here. Yeah, the sand will go right there. And if you really want, you can raise it up again. Like right here will be the sand, and right here will be the hammer. So I'm going to go ahead and set up a wall and show you guys that this actually works. Alright, here we go. We're shooting through. It works just like a charm. So as you can see, this goes through the regens, and you can also just shoot right through the next wall. So this is perfect for raiding bases. I 100% recommend this method. If you guys did enjoy today's episode of How to Cannon, I do know it was a little advanced, so this may not be for everyone, but if you did enjoy, please be sure to leave a like. If you'd like to see more content, make sure you subscribe. Leave a comment on what you want to see next for your How to Cannon tutorial, what you want to see with raiding bases or whatever. I will try my best to make sure I get to it. The tutorials coming up will be a little bit easier than this one. This is just for the more advanced raiders, because I know I have been doing a little bit of less advanced tutorials here. So make sure you leave a like. It really helps me out. If you like the series, if you want to keep it alive, make sure you leave it a like. I'm FloatingWilly. Have a nice day.